So I felt inspired to jump in a hot little meeting room at work and record this episode. I've roughly scripted it out, which is good for me. I've got my trusty little note here. But I felt inspired after I shared a post on Instagram this week about how much money I take from my business. I will link this in the description in case you are listening to this a couple of years in the future and you are like, well, I have no idea what she's referencing. And in this specific post, I talk about how much I take from my business, which, what's today's date? September 20th of 2024, after tax $950 a week, Australian. And I talk about why I live lean and how I think that, one of the most detrimental things to a really amazing business is the founder that takes all of the money out of their business for themselves and then they have nothing to invest back, or they have what I like to call business lifestyle creep, where they adjust their lifestyle based on a really good month or a really good launch, feeling that that is their new normal. And I will say there are a lot of accounts that very much posture, oh, well, once you've done it, now we can make it sustainable and this is the new normal and I've hit this new level. And I think sometimes that we forget that having a business relies on so much more than a good month. And I think especially when we are at the mercy of other people's decisions, which, let's be honest, is everything, because we are relying on them basically giving us money, so making a decision for then us to have a business. We just want to be a little bit conservative is my approach in, not doing things too hard and too fast and going and buying a fucking G-Wagon or committing to something super huge long-term after just having a good day. I think it is amazing to be optimistic. And I think that it is amazing to have something incredible happen and really feel into that feeling of how good is this? And this is just the start. But I think that it can be really stressful long-term if you make decisions based on that and you think that that's going to happen every day, because you know what? It's just not the case. So inspired by that and all of the comments and all of the DMs, something that I feel is lacking a lot online and everywhere is around the notion of good business and being a good entrepreneur. I think a lot of the times we can confuse ourselves thinking that we are our business and that a good business is a reflection on us. And I even see this a lot with people that are being like, I'm worth more than that. And, I'm finally charging what I'm worth. And I'm like, this is so interesting, because it's like there feels like that there's this personal enmeshment of the entrepreneur in the business, but I believe that both of them are separate. Both of them absolutely have to be developed. To do incredible in business, you need to be an amazing entrepreneur, and to not lose your mind and feel like that you're always up and always down. You need to develop the entrepreneur, but you also need to have a good business. And I think that I have both. I think that I really have both. Do I have the results that I am working towards? You know what? I'm on the path, and one day they will be here. I'm a huge fan of the Life Coach School podcast. If you've listened to a number of episodes, you know that I reference Brooke regularly. She is my number one business expander. I love how she runs her business. I love that she is consistent. Everything about her self-leadership and how she runs her business is something that I look up to. And I have listened to quite a few podcast episodes that she's been on and a few on YouTube. Like if you just Google Brooke Castillo interview, there's some incredible ones that have come up, and things where, I don't know how much her company does now, but her whole thing is, making $100 million a year as a life coach. And she shares this on the podcast. And I love that she is really mid-process as she's kind of talking through this, and that she recognizes to make that happen, there are two things that are really important. There is the entrepreneur, and there is obviously the mindset, which is really everything that she does. But then there is also the business side of that as well. And to have this beautiful, incredible outcome that is sustainable, you really need to develop both. So what I want to talk about is I think what I do and how I lead myself and skills that I have that make me good at business and a good entrepreneur, and I know are the foundations of getting the future results that I have. And what I mean by that is I know, one day I'm going to be on someone's podcast, Professional Babe is going to be doing $20 million a year, and someone is going to ask me, what would you say to someone, or what did you do? And I'm going to say something like, hey, I did this. And it's what I'm doing today. It's just the fact that enough time just hasn't passed for the results to happen, and that is okay. So the first thing, and I think you probably know what I'm going to say, is I think one thing that you need if you want to have a good business and be a good entrepreneur is you need to have standards, and you need to have high standards. And this needs to be something that you are revisiting regularly. I've recorded 2 podcast episodes on this. If you have not listened to them, what are you doing? They are new standards for business. I think it's episode 27 and 28 of the Business FONDLE podcast. Even if you listened to it before, go back and have another listen. And this is something ideally that we should be revisiting every single quarter. And anytime that something fucky happens in your business, go and look at it every single month. It's really interesting now because I am a lovely little single but dating woman. The dating is a lie because I'm not dating, but I'm open to a date if someone wants to ask me, like John Hamm, or if Paul Newman wants to come back, I would say yes. But it's really interesting that I've looked at a couple of books by, Margarita Nazarenko, and someone mentioned Matthew Hussey's book. And I'm pretty sure on the cover of both of them, it talks about like new standards. And I love that people are recognizing how important it is to have standards. And I think that this is something that is talked about in dating, but in business, it's just not. And I truly believe that what makes me good at business is having high standards and continual high standards and honoring those standards and not going against them. And what I mean by that is, I think that sometimes it's really easy to have the intentions of high standards. Like, I charge full price, but then we go against it because we can always find a reason to betray that. So, the person that doesn't have that much money, or the person that is our dream client, but it's not really the work that we want to do. And it's really easy for us to kind of justify it. But the thing is, you are always going to find a reason if you look hard enough. But what you need to get clear on is the fact that where you are today is the result of the standards that you have in your business. And this can be something as simple as, I have a standard that I make a sales call to action every single day. I just do. I sell my products. And if you don't have a standard of that, like that you sell regularly, this could be why you don't have regular sales, because it's not a standard for you. The thing is, we have standards whether we realize it or we don't, okay? Because they are giving us the life and the business that we have now. So if you want something that is drastically different, and if you want a better business, you have to look at your standards. What would be a really fun exercise for you to do is look at people in business that you admire. Look at people like, if you love Alex Hormozy, look at him. If you love like whoever, just look at them and look at how they show up and how they do things. And ask yourselves, like, what standards do you think that they have for themselves in their personal life and in their business? And there is a reason that I am keeping them separate. And as we go through this episode, I'm going to keep everything separate. And it's the fact that the entrepreneur and the business are separate. You are not your fucking business. And, if there is one takeaway that you take from this episode, it's that. Because so often people have a bad day in business and they think it's themselves. Oh, what is it about me? Maybe it's the fact that you're not your business, okay? So think to the standards that they have, and then I want you to create your own. As always, we've got the podcast episode. If you haven't purchased Who Are You Becoming, I do have a really sexy little bundle that will actually walk you through this with some trainings and worksheets, among other things. But, I think that I have a good business because I have really high standards and I honor them. And it's not something that is set in stone, that I still have the same standards as I did in January. It's something that is continually evolving. So that's the first thing. Every business and every entrepreneur needs to have a set of standards, and they have to be high, and you have to continually update them and you have to hold them. And I'm not saying that this is going to be easy. It's probably going to be really challenging because you're dealing on a regular basis with people that actually don't have standards. You are dealing with people that have low standards and that you are dealing with the brunt of them. I'm not saying that this is easy, but at the end of the day, entrepreneurship isn't easy. The second thing is leadership. I think that I have a good business because I have amazing leadership. And I think that we can think that we are good leaders, but I think a lot of us are just trying to be people's friends. And when we are a good leader, it is, again, it's going to be at times uncomfortable. One of the comments on the post that I put up was that this was amazing leadership. And it was the fact that it was having a hard conversation that potentially could get pushback, because at the end of the day, anytime you talk about anything money related brings up a lot of people's stuff, but it was having a conversation in a really transparent way that actually had to be had. And I say this because for a lot of us, we desire to have an incredible business. It's not that we're like, and not to say that, going out and making $50,000 a year is nothing. Like, that's incredible. Even if you make a single buck, that's amazing. But I know for a fact that a lot of people that listen to this podcast, if I said to them, do you want to have a multi-million-dollar business? Do you see yourself speaking on stage or having a book or having merchandise or being like, I don't know, Stephen Bartlett's personal go-to, whatever it is? I know for a fact that there is a very high percentage of people, the majority of those people desire that. And when you desire a business at that level, something that you need to have is incredible leadership, because the higher you go, the higher you shine, the more visibility you have, the more eyeballs you have, and the more that people in that industry are going to look to you as being the source of what to do or how to do things. It's like you are the example, even if you don't want to be the example. And that is just a result of when you go out and do big things, okay? So even if you don't want it, it's just going to be something that happens, right? We can look at Brooke Castillo. She might be like, I want to be a role model of this, but the amount of people that probably mention her in their podcast and in everything they're doing, because she's out here actually doing the work. Now, because of that, a lot of us need to have an incredible sense of leadership, because we are leading a movement. And a lot of us are leading a new way of actually doing something, and people are going to pay attention to that. So part of being a good leader is having hard conversations. It is not being people's friends, but it is doing things in a way that is serving them in I'm going to say the highest level of good. So one way that I think, and again, why this is important in business, especially if you are B2B, or especially if people come to you in a mentoring capacity, even if they're not working with you, but they're listening to your content, they're soaking everything up, is it's because you are the light that they are also following on their path forward. And sometimes we are going to have to do things that feel a bit uncomfortable, and it feels a bit vulnerable at times, and you're not going to be liked for some things that you're going to do, and that's 100% okay, because you're not here to be people's friends. You are here to lead a movement, lead a change, get people amazing results. So something that you can think about, especially if you are desiring huge results, you may, when you're hearing this, realize that there is a disconnect between you actually want this huge change for your industry, or you want to create something, but you're actually seeing how you're holding yourself back, or you're not having the conversation, or you are not putting the content out there, or you are not doing the things that you want. And there is part of you that's kind of like minimizing everything for that reason. I will say the shadow side of doing this is you are going to get pushback. Just like I have all of these 1-star ratings on my podcast and I have random haters and trolls, that's going to happen. Okay, because that is the price of excellence, and that is a price of leadership and being a good leader. And know that the sooner you start this now, this is just going to pay off so much, because as you grow your business, you will learn that you cannot do this yourself. You are going to need to bring people into your vision, whether that be your contractors or your staff. And as the person with a vision, it is up to you to lead that team in that direction and hold really firmly in how you do that. The third thing, and we've covered this a little, is I keep my personal life and my business separate. And I would even go as far as saying that I keep, and this is so hard, I keep my personal mood separate from my business, meaning I don't let my emotions and how I'm feeling determine how I'm going to show up in my business. And this has been something for the last week I have struggled with. I had my wisdom teeth out last week. I had court at the start of the week. I'm still I feel my body detoxing from all the medications that I've taken, and I feel like shit. I am struggling to be focused. I'm tired. I have my period at work. And it was have you seen the scene from The Shining where the blood just comes down the corridors? It was that a week early, unexpectedly. And it's when you're it's just been one of these weeks where everything has happened. And I've had continual tests. And I feel that I can look at my personal life and I have 50 reasons as to why I just want to go home or I don't want to do it. And I can then look at my business and be yeah, but your business needs you. You're not your business. You are a separate entity from your business. And the business still has to keep moving forward. You can look at how you're showing up and you can look at how you're doing things. And that's going to, of course, differ to the weeks where you have all this energy and you are on fire. But your business still needs you because you are not your business. So this has been something that served me also really well in having this differentiator when stuff in business isn't going well and how I don't make it mean anything against myself, So in complete transparency, we had a couple people finish up in Business Bang this week. And I was a little shocked because, they had mentioned that they'd want to continue. So to find out really last minute, hey, no, I've changed my mind. I am going to stop. I was oh, okay, cool. And I feel that if I had personal enmeshment separations in that moment, I would have made this meant so much about me. I would have been really selfish and been oh, if I was good enough, or if I was just better, or what didn't I do? Or, I would have made it something about my worth, right? Now, because I didn't have that, I was able to look at this objectively and being was there something in the program that we could have made better? Was it the calls? Did you need more access? Was it the content? And, how can I support you to get the results? Of course I'm involved. It's my program, but I'm not making this mean oh, I just need to meditate and do some self-love shit because that's fucked. It's it's not all just me. It's let me have some separation so I can look at this objectively. So because I have this separation, I asked the people. I contacted them. And, in the past, I have rung clients. I've sent them voice messages. And I've asked for really direct feedback on, thank you so much for letting me know. I just really love to check in because I know that you were really keen to continue. And I just want to make sure that I'm really clear on what has changed for you. Was it something within the program or the support, with the results you got? And I know that they were amazing. Was your expectation more in that time? This feedback is really important to me so we can make this program better. And because I had that separation, I was able to do that. Could you imagine if I had all this personal enmeshment? I wouldn't do that because for me, I would have probably positioned this how could I have been better? And I would have made this almost getting feedback for the person to then validate me when it's like, it's not about me. It's about the thing that they've actually invested in, and because I had that separation, I could ask really good questions. We got amazing feedback. And the feedback was, hey, no, I'm fantastic. We're just moving countries and the call times aren't fantastic, and the feedback was fantastic. And everyone was like, no, this was incredible. Everything was amazing. I'm just going through my own stuff and I want to integrate this. So because of that, I then don't break myself down. I don't have a nervous breakdown and fuck my business. And I can do things really objectively. I hear all the time people say that asking for feedback is one of the scariest things ever. And I think that it is really scary when you center yourself in the feedback, forgetting that you have a business and your business is not you. It is terrifying when you ask for feedback and you bring your worth into it, because then all of a sudden you're questioning yourself, and it's not about that. So if you can bring in separation between the entrepreneur and the business owner, you will have a better business, because you will be able to ask better questions. You will be able to look at things objectively. If a launch isn't going well, which always happens, you're not going to be like, oh, was my energy bad? What did I do? You're not going to do that. You're going to be like, okay, cool. Like, you'll look at yourself and be like, was I on my A game that day? But you'll actually look at things objectively. You'll look at things analytically, like this is a separate entity that you are showing up to. And, back to the last point of self-leadership, if you desire a huge business, this is a habit that you have to get into. Like, could you imagine sitting in a boardroom with 12 of your team being like, was I not good enough that day? Am I okay? Do people like me? Like, CEOs don't talk like that. Small entrepreneurs do. Small wannabe entrepreneurs do. This is, oh, why don't they like me? They probably do fucking like you, bitch. You just haven't made a sales call to action in a month because you're like, I need to do some tapping. No, you don't. You just need to sell. Okay. Now the next point is I've done the fucking work. I feel like we're going to get fired up now. We got like a little bit deep, and now we're going to get fired up with some of my little Aries moon energy here. It's been really interesting that I follow a broad cross-section of people online. I do this for a purpose, because if there's one thing you don't want to be, it's in a vacuum where you're getting people with the same opinions and everyone's agreeing with you. You want to have variety. And it's been really interesting that there's some advice that I see where it's like, to make like multiple 6 figures a month, you just need to like step into the energy, or you need to do this. And for some people, 100% that's the case. But I think for a lot of people, we've actually skipped over some business parts of business, or we have skipped over some foundations, which is really easy to do. And I say that it's easy to do because, when you build up a really amazing personal brand where people love you and they love what you put out there, it's easy to kind of have your first sales and make money with people that are your warm audience. But as you progress in business and you move through that, and that's going to happen at varying speeds and lengths of time. Some people it's going to take a year. Other people, you're going to be like, oh shit, I made my first couple sales. Now what? There needs to be business steps that have to happen. There has to be business steps for the business, and you have to have things that are sorted there. But you have to have done the work as an entrepreneur. You have to have your mindset in a good place. You have to be resilient. You have to be okay with hearing no. You have to be fine with failure. That is the work. And this is important because these are skills that are going to pay off in dividends as you grow in business. For an example, when I'm doing like sales reach outs, this isn't things that I'm doing cold. These are people that have opted into something, or they've requested something. They're really warm. I'm still left on red. I'm still told no. I just know that's part of business. But if you haven't done the work, again, we bring ourselves in. Back to the previous point. We bring the entrepreneur in. Why don't people like me? Well, people don't fucking like themselves, right? You can't expect everyone to like you. But you have to have done the work. And that also involves the work in your business. Do you have a financial team? Do you know if your offers are profitable? Or are you kind of just moving forward without kind of doing the work in your business to know if shit is actually working for you? Because I think sometimes we forget that as we grow and scale a business, everything is going to scale with that. And that also includes stuff that's not working well. So if you are growing and you've got a lot of shit, you're growing that. If you are not profitable, you're not going to be able to outwork that, because the more, like, you're going to keep losing profit the more that you work. So you need to make sure that you've actually done the groundwork. And have you? If you haven't already, I have an incredible quiz called Hot Business. It's a diagnostic tool that I created. It took me about 2 weeks. So don't just think that this is just some simple little thing that's whacked together. And it actually benchmarks 5 important areas of business, goals. And in that, don't just think that this is, I want to make $1 million a year. There's so much more to it than that. It looks at the things that you sell, the people you sell it to, your sales strategy, and your mindset. And ideally, we are scoring like 100% that this is something that is all done. And that is going to be a really good baseline for you to kind of look at and be like, where am I falling over? Where do I actually need to do the work? What does this look like? For my former self, when I had my studio, one of the things that was always my Achilles heel was my tax and my income, and I really struggled. And the best thing that I ever did was get a bookkeeper, because I just kept getting lost in the mess. It took a while to kind of get that sorted, and this is something to consider. It's stuff you can't just click your fingers and it's fixed overnight. It's just going to take a little bit of time. But we want to make sure that if you want a good business, that you have done the groundwork in developing the entrepreneur, and you've done the groundwork in developing the business. And if you're like, I don't even know what that looks like, this is where you hire someone. Like, I'm going to just say, work with me, because I will look at your business and I will tell you exactly what you need to fix and how you need to fix it. And I am not here to be your friend. That doesn't mean I'm going to be a bitch. I'm actually really lovely. But, I am giving you advice to serve the highest good on where you're going to develop you, but to make sure that you have a good fucking business, and that you're not building something that a year from now you realize isn't profitable or that you hate, because that just would make me really sad. So I have 2 things with that. If you actually want me to do a live workshop on this, can you please find me on Instagram and just let me know? I want the live entrepreneur workshop. Please give me some context, because I love you guys, but sometimes you message me with the most random things of just these one-liners, and I'm like, what does this mean? And I forget that I said it on my podcast. So that is the first thing. And then the second thing is, for $1,500 a month AUD, you are going to get exceptional business support and advisory, and you also get to work with my CFO. I am available every day through the week. I will get back to you, and you will get exceptional advice in my program, Business Bang. So you can also comment me that as well, and I will give you information on that. All right, next point. I enjoy the process. This, I feel like this is so Gary V coded, because Gary V is always like, you have to love the process. But I have a good business because I love everything that I do. And even if I'm like, oh, I hate this, like, I actually love it. I love the results, or I love something about it. I have a love-hate relationship with Pilates, which some of you will be like, that's so weird because you had a studio for 8 years, and I did. And sometimes I hate working out. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I just want to sloth on the couch. But I love how it makes my body feel. I love how it makes me look. I love everything about it. I don't necessarily love doing it at the time, especially if it's a hard exercise, but I really enjoy it. And it's the same in business. I love everything about it. I feel really fortunate that my weekends are boring and that I get more out of my weekdays. I get more out of coming into the office. I love it. I can sit at home and I feel really bored, because I feel that, if anything, I was born to be an entrepreneur. But I also feel that there has been so much intention in how I've built my business, and that I do things that I love, and I work with clients that I love, and I show up to something every day that I am so immensely proud of. And that has taken some work, but I really enjoy the process. And because of that, I'm happy for things to sometimes take a little longer. My whatever I'm working towards at the time, sometimes I'm like, I want the results now. And I do, I'm an impatient person. But, I enjoy the process and I love this. And I think to have a good business, you have to love the process. There is in the Instagram post that I shared with my wage, there is an article linked to a is it smart company? Yeah, this like how much founders pay themselves. And it's really interesting. It shows themselves like what their business turnover is or how much they're making, what wage they're taking, and a couple of other things as well. And what's really interesting about that is, a lot of people when they started didn't take anything. And it's like it's really hard to show up to something that's not paying you if you don't love it, because you have to like what you're doing if you want to get a good result. And I think sometimes a lot of us are doing something because we feel that it's going to get money and we enjoy the money, but we don't actually enjoy our business. I'm a believer that, there are going to be things in business that you're not going to love. I don't love paying tax. I don't love when a client defaults and Sharon can't collect the money and then I'm bought in or I'm kept up to date with every step of the process. I don't love that. But it's balanced out by everything else that I really, really enjoy. And I think when it comes to having a good business, you as the founder have to make sure that you are building something that you are proud of. And it could be a good idea to take a moment today and just look at it and be like, am I proud of this? If I was to go tomorrow, would people be talking about the fact that I've left some of my greatest work behind and how lucky they are to still have access to that? Something that good founders have in common and good businesses have in common is the person in that leadership role, which is you, that you can tell they love what they do and that love may be a strong word at times because sometimes I don't, but they are devoted to it. They are devoted to the process. And I see this every day working in my co-working space. This isn't some little setup with 10 people. There's 500 people that work in this building. Some of the teams have I think 20 to 30 staff. So they're not like solo founders. We've got bigger businesses that are in here, and some of them are international or they're national. So they've got head offices in multiple different places. And I see every day founders in here. I see them do meeting after meeting after meeting. I hear them say that they've worked until 1 o'clock in the morning. And you can't do that if you don't like what you're doing or if you aren't guided by where you're going or you aren't devoted to that. And I think that that is something that everyone has in common, and everyone that you look up to in business, they love the process. They have to. Otherwise, the hard days will just make you want to quit. All right, we've got one more. One more. Are you ready? I think part of having a good business is you have to back yourself and you have to have skin in the game. And you have to back yourself with your word, your cash, and your time. And sometimes you'll be doing all three regularly. Sometimes you will just be doing it with your time because you won't have any extra funds because they'll be tied up in other things, or you will be doing two of them. But I think, to have a good business, you have to back yourself. You can't just dip your toe in and wait for people to buy into your vision if you aren't even buying into your vision. And this I have seen a lot where people don't want to do the website. I don't want to spend $5,000 on a website. Why? Like if you're doing this and you know that you are here to do something great, you've got regular money coming in. Why? Oh, I just don't know. What don't you know? Like this just doesn't make any sense to me. Because if you truly believe in what you're doing, you will back yourself. And if you aren't in a position yet to invest, I know for me, I don't want to say how much my website costs because I think I got some mates rates with some things that happened. But my whole rebrand that I did when I leveled up in, when was this? The start of 2022. I did like a photo shoot. And we did like a little mini trailer of the brand and one for GGE and a couple of other things. I spent $20,000, maybe a little bit over $20,000. And, I could have taken that out of my business and I could have gone on a holiday post COVID. I could have done anything. But for me, I was like, no, I believe in this and I'm going to back myself. But before that, I didn't really have the extra money. So what was I doing? I would be up late at night learning how to create my little website on Kajabi. I would back myself with my time. And I did it. It took me longer, but I was like, look, I'm not really in a position right now to outsource this. Also because I wanted to do new branding shots and we were in the middle of lockdown and we couldn't exactly do that. So I think when you want to have a good business, and if you have a good business, you have to back yourself and you have to back yourself daily. You can't, if you're not fully bought into your vision and what you're doing, how do you expect people to pay you? How do you expect to grow something if you're like, oh, I'm not sure about this, right? It's like if you're dating, if you're like, oh, am I a catch? I don't really know if I'm good. Am I okay? Like, do you really think that you're a catch if you're out there questioning yourself? You have to believe that you're amazing. You have to have that confidence. You have to, walk with that people can sense that. And I think this can be something where you can really look at yourself this week and how you've shown up and ask yourself, am I moving in a way of someone that actually backs themselves? Like if I was a fly on my wall, am I doing things of someone that fully has bought into what I'm doing? Or am I kind of doing this like a little amateur hobbyist? And I think that I've seen founders that are doing $250,000 of sales a year that do that. And it's like, yeah, you don't have skin in the game. I've seen people that haven't even made $1 and they back themselves. I see this every day with startups that haven't made their first cent, but they come in and they have the energy of a business that's doing millions just because you can tell that they have this energy about how they're showing up, right? And I think that this is something, as you're listening to this, you probably can look at your business circle of people who fucking back themselves and people who don't. I have friends and they've got their beautiful businesses and they're always hiring. And I'm like, it's so funny that I look at the belief that they're like, yep, we're hiring, we're growing, like, oh, this feels a bit like risky at times that we're bringing all these people in. They're not doing that willy-nilly. They've obviously, consulted it, made sure they've got the money for that. But they've really backed themselves by bringing people in. And I think that is epic. So, I don't know how many I went over just then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I did 7. There are 7 things where it's like if you focus on developing these for the entrepreneur, so you and the business, you'll have a good business. I'm not saying that doing this, you're going to make $1 million overnight, but everything is going to be working in your favor. It's like if you want to make an amazing lasagna, you need to go to the supermarket and you need to have those ingredients. These are the ingredients. Sometimes it's going to take a little bit longer for the recipe to happen. You've got to preheat the oven. You've got to do these things, but you will eventually get there because you've done the prep work. These are the ingredients. Get the right ingredients, you are going to have a really fucking tasty dish, and that dish is going to be a really sexy business, a business as sexy as you, and that's very sexy. Hot stuff, I've loved this. We've only got 6 minutes left because someone has booked the meeting room after me, and I don't think that I'm going to take 6 minutes telling you everything that I love. Maybe this is the week where we have a 6-minute monologue about everything that I love. But I love this. I love this. I love you. I love you more than, oh my God, guess what? I won at court. Oh my God, I can't believe I won at court. I had court for an old housing situation and it was really horrendous. I think I've spoken about it like on and off on the podcast, not too much, but it was the mediator deemed that the apartment was actually unfit for human habitation. To make matters even more fun, I actually bought the lawyer at work that was kind of like helping me out with things. And the mediator was like, no, I want Miss Sarah to represent her case. And I'm like waving my doctor's certificate, being like, we followed the protocol. I've just had my wisdom teeth out. And he's like, no, you'll be fine. And I had to do it myself. And I was just like, okay, cool. Channel Harvey Specter. And we won. And I did that myself and it felt fucking thrilling. So go me. I love you more than that. I love you more than, oh my gosh, how do I say it? Is it Haagen-Dazs ice cream? Oh my God, so good. So good. They have like a Biscoff one and it's amazing. I basically like ate the whole tub in a day. It is delightful. I have also worked out because I do love to buy things on sale, love a deal. My business has like Coles and Woolworths right near each other, and they alternate every single week with what's on sale. So I'm continually in a good mood because I feel like I've always gotten like a deal because I just vary what supermarket I go to every week. So I love you more than that. The ice cream is amazing. I'm a huge ingredient checker of things as well. And the ingredients, like on the vanilla ice cream, I think there's only like 4 ingredients or something. And it's delicious and it's thick. It's like got a density. I don't like fluffy ice cream. And when it's like got so much air in it. And I'm like, I want something substantial. Like if I got this ice cream, I want to throw it at a wall and I want it to dent the wall. Like I want it to be like a dense boy. So love you more than that. I also love you more than my nail color. It's like this beautiful pink. It is the gel bottle Aphrodite, and I get hard gel on my natural nails. They're really long. I think my nails are like the nail, if you turn your hands over and you look at your palm, like they grow about a centimeter or maybe a bit more actually past the ends of my fingertips. It's really hard to do things. Like I actually struggle to flush the toilet and stuff, but I love you more than my nails. They look really pretty and I can do things like this. They feel like non-functional, but they're a big part of my personality. So I love you more than that. I also love you more than, oh my gosh, how good is it when people just have like a general interest in you and what you're doing in your business? It feels really nice when people care and they remember things and they say things like, oh, how's like, oh, are you about to go and record a podcast episode for the business fondle? And you're like, oh wow, you remember my podcast episode name. Things like that. Like it just feels really good that it's like I care about this, but doesn't it feel amazing when other people care about it too? I think it's unfortunate. Sometimes it's not your nearest and dearest, but you have an army of people out there that care about everything that you do. How good does that feel? I love this. Oh, I love that. That's a good feeling. So let's end on that. Hot stuff. It's been a fun time. It's been a very fun time. Have the best day. Remember, I gave you some things that I want you to go and think about. And if you want them like that workshop, please let me know. Otherwise, if I get crickets, I'm not doing shit. So let me know. Love you.